everyone. At this time, I want to meeting of the City Council for Tuesday, March 17th, 2020 to order. We do have a quorum. In respect for the guidelines from the CDC, we are practicing social separation, if you will. All of our council members are in attendance. Ms. Bynum Grace is sitting in the back of the room. Council member Robert Jones is on the phone teleconference. Our other council members are here this evening. Our city attorney is here. Our city manager, assistant city manager are all here in attendance this evening. At this time, before we move forward, let me make some comments before we move to the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If there's anyone that has comments during the public comment section, if you will type them in on Facebook Live, we will respond to them. As we get into the ordinances, there will be an opportunity for public comment on each one of the ordinances. If you have a comment on the ordinance that is being presented, we will take those on Facebook Live, and those will be read to the council for their consideration before they vote on that ordinance. I know this is a difficult situation, but we are all trying to comply by the recommendations from CDC, and we'll work very diligently to keep the public informed and updated on the information here this evening. At this time, if you would stand and join me for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, Mayor Pro Tem King will do the
United States of America. And Lord God Almighty, we ask for your wisdom and your direction. I pray, Father, that every person will have heed to the instruction and walk thereby. I understand that some people are not following. They won't stay where they're supposed to stay. But Lord, I make sure for their wisdom and guidance that you will do that for us. And Lord, we want to thank you for the city of Perry. We want to thank you now as we have met here to discuss the city business and give us wisdom how we handle every matter in our community. We do thank you and we do praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 4 is recognitions and presentations on our agenda tonight. Those have been delayed to a later date. Chief Lynn will do those as later in the year. Item 5, council members, is appointments. The city of Perry has a birthday coming up. The city of Perry will be 200 years old in 2024. And we've had some questions about what type of planning we're doing for that. And we have been asked to allow the Perry Area Historical Society to take the lead, be the lead agency in that. At this time, I would entertain a motion to accept the Perry Area Historical Society as the lead agency for the planning, development, and implementation of the city of Perry's 200th anniversary.
Second.
A motion and a second. Those in favor, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albritton?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
And Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Please let the record show the appointment was approved unanimously. Item 6 is community partner updates, and we do not have any community partners here this evening, so we'll move on to item 7. Item 7 is citizens with input. If there are any citizens that have input, would you please type that in via our Facebook Live feed, and we will respond to any of those concerns or questions you might have in the morning. Item 8 is review of the minutes. Council members, you've been provided with the minutes of the March 2nd, 2020 work session, the March 3rd, 2020 pre-council meeting, and the March 3rd, 2020 council meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept these minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to these minutes as they have been presented? Hearing none, at this time, we'll vote on this. Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Approval of minutes. Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt? Approved. Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Ms. Bonham Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Minutes were approved unanimously. Thank you very much. As old business is item 9 is old business. 9A is ordinance to the second reading and adoption. Council members, this is the second reading of these two ordinances. They will require a vote. Typically, that is a voice vote, but we will have a roll call for each one of those as well. 9A1 is the second reading of a text amendment regarding conservation subdivision development requirements. Mrs. Newby is going to discuss that for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You may recall Mr. Wood presented the first reading of this text amendment to the land management ordinance regarding section 5-6.6 development requirements. This is to address the issues that we were having with those streets being blocked and blocking public access in conservation subdivisions. There was, the Planning Commission recommends this, and it's amending subsection 5-6.6E to increase the minimum right-of-way width for minor residential streets from 40 to 50 feet. This also amends table 5-6-2 of subsection 5-6.6F to increase the front minimum building setbacks for all zoning districts for conservation subdivisions to 25 feet. And the copy of the table is provided to you there on the screen.
Council members, what questions do you have relative to this ordinance?
The question I have is, this is for new subdivisions, right?
Yes, sir.
The old ones that are already in place remain as they are.
That is my understanding from Mr. Wood's presentation last time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions relative to this ordinance? Is there anyone here or anyone on Facebook Live that have any comments relative to this ordinance relative to conservation subdivision development requirements? Hearing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the second reading of this text amendment regarding the conservation subdivision development requirements.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Peterson, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor
Yes.
Pro Tem? Yes. Ms. Bonham Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Please let the record show that the ordinance was approved unanimously. Item 9A2 is the second reading of red speed ordinance. Ms. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The ordinance before you tonight for a vote is an ordinance that would create an automated traffic enforcement safety system within our school zone. Ordinance would create a civil citation for speeding to be issued if an owner of a vehicle copies of the photographs that were recorded of them, and it will also have a copy of the certificate of a sworn law enforcement officer. Janet, go ahead to the next slide. Some important things to note about this particular type of violation is that it's deemed non-criminal.
first time?
Yes, sir, that's correct. There's I don't know if it's 30 or 60 days. I can confirm that with, Chief Lynn. But you would receive a warning in the mail instead of an actual citation. It would be still the same thing as far as a copy of the photographs, and it would tell you that you were speeding, but it would be a warning. There is a warning period.
I think it's 30 days.
I'm not sure, but we'll verify that. Thanks, Mr. Hunt. Any other questions relative to red zone ordinance or red speed, excuse me? Hearing none, if there's anybody present on Facebook Live that has a comment relative to the red speed ordinance, would you please indicate that at this time? Hearing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the red speed ordinance as presented by Ms. Newby.
So moved.
There's a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Albritton?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Please let the record show that the red speed ordinance was approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 is any other old business. 10A from the mayor, I do not have any. 10B is our council members. Ms. Peterson, any old business?
No, sir.
Mr. Albritton?
None.
Mr. Hunt?
No, sir.
Mr. King?
No, sir.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
None.
Mr. Jones, any old business?
No, sir.
Thank you. Is there any old business from our city attorney, Ms. Brooke Newby?
No, sir.
Is there any old business from our city manager, Mr. Gilmore?
No, sir.
Is there any old business from our assistant city manager, Mr. Robert Smith?
No, sir.
Thank you. Item 11 is new business. 11A are matters referred from the March 16th, 2020 work session and March the 17th, 2020 pre-council meeting. Council members, are you aware that both of those meetings were canceled, so we have no new business coming from either one of those. 11B are resolutions for consideration and adoption. 11B1 is selecting a voting delegate for the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia's annual meeting. Mr. Gilmore, I have a question. Since they have canceled that meeting and moved it to October, do we need to vote now or should we wait?
Mayor, I'd recommend you go ahead and vote, then you're done.
Hello?
I'll make a motion.
I'm sorry, somebody came in, so announced, so. Yes, sir, Mr. Gilmore, I'm sorry.
I would recommend that you all approve for the mayor and the mayor pro tem. I think that's your usual process. Then you're done with it whenever they schedule it, if they do.
Council members, you've heard the recommendation from the administration that the voting delegates for the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia's annual meeting would be the mayor and the mayor pro tem. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve that recommendation as stated.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Voice vote or roll, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albritton?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please let the record show that the voting delegate resolution was approved unanimously. Item 11B2 is a resolution relative to the Houston County Government Building. Ms. Newby.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the resolution for your consideration tonight is regarding the Houston County Government Building. The Houston County owns the Houston County Government Building, and they are interested in selling it, and the city of Perry is desiring to acquire the Houston County Government Building for operations of our, city operations. The Houston County will vacate the building by December 31st of 2021 or sooner. The intent of this resolution is to reflect the county's intent to sell the building and the intent of the city to purchase the building.
Council members, what questions do you have relative to the resolution covering, the Houston County Government Building?
I think I know the answer to my question, but I'd like to hear you say it. Aren't we gonna let the tenants that are currently in it stay for a time?
Yes, sir. Houston County will need to relocate the tenants currently using the building to a new building that they will need to construct.
And the time period on that is?
The time period that's outlined in the resolution is for Houston County to vacate the building by December 31st of 2021 or sooner upon the completion of a new building for those tenants. It's the intent that the parties will enter a sales agreement within 1 month of the passage of this resolution by each party.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions relative to the Houston County Government Building resolution? Hearing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution for the Houston County Government Building as presented.
So move.
Second. A motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Peterson, your vote on this resolution?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Please let the record show the resolution for relative to the Houston County Government Building was approved unanimously. Item 11B3 is a resolution terminating the temporary moratorium on the permitting of conservation subdivisions. Ms. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the resolution in front of you for consideration is to terminate the temporary moratorium on the permitting of conservation subdivisions. As you'll recall, Council initially adopted a resolution on December 17th, 2019 to impose a temporary moratorium on the issuance of conservation subdivision permits. That was allow time for the task force to research ways to prevent public safety and general service access concerns to the residential units within those conservation subdivisions. Council subsequently amended its resolution on January 7th, 2020 to specify an expiration date of May 17th, 2020. But with the adoption of the ordinance earlier in tonight's meeting, addressing the minimum setback zones that we talked about, the moratorium is no longer needed, and this resolution would terminate that temporary moratorium on the permitting of conservation subdivisions.
Council members, what questions do you have relative to removing this temporary moratorium? Hearing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to accept the proposal to remove or terminate this temporary moratorium on the permitting of conservation subdivisions.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please let the record show that the resolution terminating the temporary moratorium on the permits of conservation subdivisions is approved unanimously. Item 11B4 is a resolution to declare certain real property surplus property. Ms. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, for your consideration, is a resolution to declare certain real property as surplus property. It's the administration's recommendation that the real property located at 203 South Street in Perry, be declared surplus property, as it's been determined that the real property is no longer serving a public purpose.
Thank you, Ms. Newby. Council members, what questions do you have relative to this surplus property? Hearing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to accept the administration's recommendation that this property be declared surplus.
So moved.
The motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Yes.
Prayer? I'll get it out in a minute. It's coming. Ms. Bynum Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Please let the record show that the resolution to declare certain retail surplus property was approved unanimously. Item 11B5 is a resolution appointing prosecuting attorneys for the municipal court of the city of Perry. Ms. Newby.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, I believe it was last year when council appointed Joseph R. Prine and Michael Barber as the prosecuting attorneys for the municipal court. Since that time, they have Dylan Zane Hasty, who has joined their firm and is also assisting in prosecuting cases. And so we would just ask to make it official through this resolution to allow him to be appointed as one of the additional prosecuting attorneys for our municipal court.
Thank you. Council members, what questions you have relative to appointing the prosecuting attorneys for our municipal court? Hearing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Ms. Von Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Please let the record show the resolution appointing prosecuting attorneys as for our municipal court was approved unanimously. Item 11C is award of bids. 11C1 is bid number 2020-13, and this is for the Art Center AV equipment. Mr. Worthington is not here with us this evening, and Mr. Smith is going to present that bid.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, what you have before you is the bid documentation pertaining to the audio-visual upgrades at the Art Center. You may recall that this includes new speakers, a new large portable screen, ancillary type of support systems like a mixer, a PA system, all the cabling, wall panels, all that type of stuff. Should be a very professional, nice system that y'all have moving forward. With that being said, we received one responsive bidder, Solutions Inc., and they're out of the Metro Atlanta area, and staff is recommending that we go with Solutions Inc. in the amount of $19,126.
What questions do you have, council members, relative to this AV equipment?
Is that something that would go forward right away, if approved?
Very quickly, yes, ma'am. We understand what a priority project is for y'all.
Not that we're having anything in there for the next little
Well-
while, but.
Your question, could you repeat it?
Yes, my question was, would this move along pretty quickly, that would get done? And he said yes, it was a priority item.
A question, Mr. Gilmore, I have two questions. We only had one response from bidders for this type of equipment. Is it that specialized?
No, sir. It's quite surprising to us that we only received one responsive bid. We expected more.
Okay.
I'd like to see us not bid tonight, but to go out again, see what we can come in. 19,000 is lots of money just to have one bid.
Mr. Gilmore, your thoughts on this? I mean, given that the Art Center is closed down for some undetermined amount of time, should we go back out for bids on this one?
I think under our particular circumstances, Mayor, I would agree to follow up on Mr. Hunt's recommendation, particularly since there's no immediate need for it at the facility. My sense is the results are going to be the same, but there's no harm in having a delay with it.
Thank you.
So the procedure would be to take a vote to table this bid at this point in time?
No.
Or decline it?
You would need to reject this bid and authorize going back out again because of insufficient response.
Council members, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to reject this bid as it's proposed and going back out for additional requests for bids due to the limited response.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Ms. Von Grace? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
This bid has been rejected, and we will go back for additional bids and bring it back to the council at a later date. 11D is bid number 2020-25 for a mini excavator. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, what you have before you are the bid documents pertaining to a mini excavator for ESG. See a picture up there. We received a number of responsive bidders in this particular bid. We received 8 responsive bidders, with a low bid of $39,900 and a high bid of $58,793. After speaking with Mr. Taylor in the shop and the folks at ESG, staff is recommending that we move forward with Southern Sales and Rentals in the amount of $39,900.
Council members, what questions do you have relative to this bid?
Was that the only bidder?
No, we had 8. We had 8
Oh,
bids.
excuse me, okay, I just.
Yeah, we had 8 bids that
Okay.
ran from 39.9 to 58.8 or
Okay.
57.
Significant interest in this,
Yeah.
sir.
So a whole lot. Any other questions relative to this bid? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain.
Excuse me,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Chairman. Or Mayor, excuse me, thinking old county days here. The administration would recommend to council to reject this bid.
Okay.
There are no particular issues with this. However, the current set of circumstances that we are dealing with now, the administration thinks it's imperative to be very cautious relative to proceeding on purchasing. The reason for that is that, as you may have heard in the news and everything, we administratively believe that there's going to be some serious economic impacts coming from the virus situation and gearing back up and everything. So at this particular time, the administration would recommend that you reject this bid in an effort to save our cash.
Council members, questions?
Is this gonna be a hardship for ESG to not have this piece of equipment soon?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions? Council members, you've heard the recommendation from staff to reject this bid due to circumstances in our current situation.
Funding, no funding.
Yes, funding in our current situation. So thank you, Mr. Gilmore, for helping me out there. At this time, I'll entertain a bid to reject, a motion to reject this bid as proposed.
So move.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call vote, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Ms. Bonner Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, appreciate it. Please let the record show that this bid was rejected unanimously due to funding. Item 12 is department head items and staff items. We've got that backwards, so I'm reading it off of here, so. Let's start with 12 with the council member items. Mrs. Peterson, is that?
Yes, Mayor. I wanted just to share with the council that I'm working on a project of taking a hard look at how we fill our boards and commissions. That I've come across a lot of information through my own training and then through my research that there are many, many places that have an application process for boards. That the application is online from the city, that anyone who is interested can download it, fill it out. It basically will include a resume of their education, their professional experiences, their civic activities, to help us identify people who have the skill set required to follow through and to be effective with the mission of that, of whichever commission or authority they are applying to be part of. I think that there are a lot of reasons for us to consider this. The first being that it would open it up to so many new people in the community, people who don't ever make their way down to City Hall, maybe have no idea how you ever go about participating in something like that. We have so many new people moving into the area, and we have retired military here. We just have a lot of people with a lot of work and life experiences that it would be nice to just open it up to be able to tap some of that resource. And we would, with an application process, we would develop a group of people that we could call on, like right now, we've basically filled all of our, we've just taken care of that. But if someone had to leave or whatever, we would have a ready stack of applications that we could review, that we could call on those individuals, and it wouldn't end up with just, well, I know somebody that might be interested, but here's a stack of people who are qualified to serve in that. P&Z has brought all kinds of technical information that they have to absorb and understand, make decisions upon. Downtown Development Authority has the power to borrow money. And they're critical in the community. I think it's time for us to take a good look at who we put on these boards. I'm still researching, but that they also would have actual term limits. And we might say, well, they have them now. However, yes and no. When my term is up, my person I nominated, their term will be up. But chances are great, they may just continue on. If we had term limits, like just say they could serve 2 4-year terms and then come off for a term, then that gives us the opportunity to rotate new people, new ideas. We've all lived long enough to know that in any group you get new ideas and fresh ideas, and that's good for the organization overall. Let's see, what else? I think it'd be a good opportunity to ask the individual, why do you even want to serve on this particular board? What skill sets do you feel like you have to bring for the city of Perry? And are you fully aware of the responsibilities of the commission? Knowing that you are accountable to the city, are you aware of the strategic plan and how your commission or your authority feeds into that? I will tell you that I've talked with folks from DDA, from the Planning Commission, and from the Arts Commission. These people are very supportive of this type of change of how we go about selecting people. So I'm going to continue just to do research on it, and when I have some more concrete thoughts, I'll bring it to you.
I think it's probably an item that you need to bring forward on our work session when we reconvene those, so we can discuss those. And I think it was probably something we'll talk at our strategic planning conference as well about
Yes.
those type of changes. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Yes.
Anything else? Dr. Albritton?
Just the status on the Pine Needle Park fencing. Are we still purchasing that in the backdrop of today's meeting? And if we are, do we have a timeline on the
That would be your determination on if you want to proceed with that. We went and checked to see on that today. The order has been placed, but there's still time to cancel if you are so inclined.
No, I don't want to cancel. There's just more and more tire ruts out there, so it's getting bad.
Then we will proceed.
Well, we'll see this one.
Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Hunt?
Lee, what is the deal on the, how much did it cost?
I don't remember. Robert, do you remember how much it was?
26,000, something
Yeah, I
like that?
think somewhere in there.
How much?
Around $26,000, but I can get that back to you.
26,000. We just rejected a $36,000 bid, was it 37? 39, excuse me. If we need to do that for the tractor, I think we need to do it for the fence. Just my personal opinion.
Mr. Hunt, I can attest, if I may, Mayor, I apologize.
Yes.
I can attest to Dr. Albritton's statement in regards to the damage that we're experiencing out there. in my opinion, this would be a necessary security item for that piece of property for the city. It's really, a week doesn't go by when there is something happens out there, and there's significant rutting and all that going on out there with the rain and stuff in particular. So that's just my view of the situation.
We got a mighty good police force to put a stop to that.
And the police force has been called out there a number of times already, but you know, it's more of a reactive thing as opposed to a proactive type of security enhancement like the fence would be.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
One of the other differences with this too is that it will be SPLOST 18 money that's paying for this, the fence, which can only be used, as you may remember, for capital improvement type of deals. Going back with the equipment, that's water and sewer operating money that pays for that.
Distinct difference,
Yes.
because we can limit what we spend on the SPOS going forward, if we see a downturn in those funds, and so.
I
Correct.
withdraw my objection. I didn't know it was coming out of.
Good, that's the reason we have these good discussions, so we can get our, any other questions or comments?
I do.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the city to please dump the dumpster on the church at the parks dumpster. We're good people from beaches to beaches, filled it full and overflowing.
Is this a roll-off that they had, I think they contracted for that? didn't
That's
they?
correct.
So,
That dumpster stays there all the time.
in the middle of the parking lot?
No, it's right beside the church.
Okay. All right.
It's there. I say it's there, it's been there for years.
I know they got one out in the middle of the parking lot.
No,
so
that's not
red
what I'm
one.
speaking of.
Okay.
I'm speaking of the one that belongs to the park.
Mr. Hunt, we'll have to check on that. My understanding is that that is serviced privately by the church.
Well, it's still the park, I mean, the beaches to peaches, peaches to beaches, people fill it full and overflowing. It has not been that way.
I think you're right on that, but if I may.
Yes, please.
My recommendation to you all is that because of this event and the overflowing, that you as council authorize for this one pull for that to be paid for by the city.
I go along with that.
Is everybody with me?
Mhm.
In other words, I don't want us to be in a situation where people say, well, the city paid for this dumping, so I want the city to come and pay for another one. Or we're supporting one church and not another, whatever the case may be. I think the circumstances that Councilmember Hunt outlined justify that, but I recommend that you have a motion so it's understood.
You know, if you mind, Matt,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment on that, because see, one thing that we have to realize is that if the church ordered to put it there, and they know beaches coming, they should have had some time on there, they can't use it. You know, because I noticed that when I went downtown to Peach Beach, there was certain business wouldn't want you to park in that parking space. They had signs that said you couldn't park there, and nobody parked in that place there. So I'm just saying, not trying to go off on Mr. Hunt, but if First Baptist put it there, they should have realized that if it was there, people were going to use it, because people who come in time did not know that they put it there. Now, it's one thing if the city had put it there for people to use, that's a different story. So
It's really not the First Baptist, it's the church in the park.
What
It's
church is
down
it?
there actually sitting in that shopping center where
Right.
all those booths were and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's where the trash came from. is
Yeah, I
down
think
there.
theirs is the one that sits right on the side of the building, and that you also see from Main Street
Right.
That's correct.
when you're coming in.
Council members, at this time, I'll entertain a motion of your wishes relative to the city paying for the emptying of a dumpster located on Main Street at Church in the Park.
So moved.
A motion. Second. Huh?
A second.
Second. Roll call vote, Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Dr. Albritton?
No.
No.
Yes.
no,
No.
No.
Ms. Final Grace? No. No. Mr. Jones, city paying for this?
Yeah.
So we have a tie? Is that correct, what I've heard? Well, given the appearance that it has on our city and the limited cost it will take to have advanced, I would vote in favor of getting it in. So please let the record show that we had a 3-3 tie on that motion. It was broken with a yes, so. Thank you, council members.
Well, thank you for the church.
Anything else? Mayor Pro Tem, anything?
I have none.
Ms. Bynum Grace? Mr. Jones, any comments this evening?
No,
No, sir? Is that what you said?
no, yeah.
Okay, thank you. You have no comments. Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, any comments this evening?
Yes, Mayor, I do have one item for y'all, if you'll indulge me for a moment. Mayor and Council, I have put before you this evening some documentation pertaining to the ongoing strategic plan refresh that we are gonna be completing this year. This was a agenda item for last night's discussion. Obviously it was canceled, so I wanted to get this before you because we do need to determine some dates moving forward. What you have is just a general overview of the sort of arrangement that we are working towards. As you can see, the Middle Georgia Regional Commission is going to be facilitating the sessions for us and also putting together the plan. And we have determined to have 4 meetings associated with the plan development process. The first is going to be a kickoff retreat. It's going to be a 9 to 3 on a Saturday type of thing. We are going to have 2 departmental sessions, very similar to what y'all do for the budget process when you have the presentations for the various departments. And then finally, a plan development meeting. That's also going to be on a Saturday. So again, 4 dates there. If you wouldn't mind, I've also put there this nifty little spreadsheet that provides the proposed dates that would work, I guess, if you will. If you could go and take a look at those dates and just put a check on the boxes that you would be able to attend, that'd be very beneficial. We're trying to determine what dates would work for the most people, and then getting back to the regional commission, getting a finalized agreement and schedule back to you all. So if you could take a look at that in your spare time, and if you could have it back to me by the end of the week, that would be fantastic. If you have any questions, you can just give me a call. Are there any questions on that?
Did you
Councilman?
receive?
I did.
Okay.
I put a doodle poll out there. It was kind of a not very good response, so I just decided to go old school hard copy and get those to you.
Any other questions relative to our strategic plan update?
What are the times on Tuesdays and Thursdays, same as it is on Saturdays?
No, sir. As you can see down, there's a key that I tried to put there down at the bottom with the different colors. The blue ones represent the all-day Saturday retreats, and then the kind of peach color, you can see those are going to be evening sessions during the week.
You see,
I see it, yeah, but
you can have it down on the left, all the way in the corner. Right there.
okay, but I didn't get that far, sorry.
We wanted to be cognizant of the folks, of y'all that have full-time jobs.
Right. Any other questions relative to the refresh? Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Newby?
Nothing further.
Nothing further. Ms. Gilmore?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I have 2 items. The first one deals with an issue from code enforcement. I believe Mr. King is familiar with this. There is a business that is operating at, I think it's 513 Martin Luther King. Apparently is in essence, a home business that has been working on fixing residents' vehicles. As far as I know, they don't do any towing in or anything like that, but it's people coming by to have their service. It apparently has been in effect, as I understand it, Mr. King, for a very long time in that neighborhood. In a review with the code enforcement, it turns out that this gentleman does not have a business license, nor was he aware that he should have a business license. And the second bigger issue is his home occupation that he is doing conflicts with what the land use allows for that piece of property. The administration's recommendation to you, and unless it changes, I'll get you something out, is that in this particular case, because of length of time, it's my understanding he has been operating for over 20 years, maybe even further back than that. I believe that predates a lot of our regulations for the home occupation, that type of stuff, and we would recommend to you to consider this to be grandfathered in unless we come back with some data that conflicts with that.
How's that gonna fit with the ground issues, oil, gas, etc.?
That's the property owner's responsibility. That's not our, we don't regulate those type of things.
I thought we did.
No, sir.
We didn't let this fella that wanted to have his car wash or something.
Yes,
let-
we regulate it when there, you may remember, when a new use is coming in. Because remember, that came in to you all for review to get permitted for that particular function to go into the site. In this particular case, this is an ongoing operation that has been there for a very, very long time. So if there are any environmental issues with it, then it's the owner's responsibility, and the owner does live at this site. It is the owner's home. And underneath the premise of the grandfathering, this, well, even if he didn't, on the stormwater rules, it'd be grandfathered in anyway for that activity.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Question. If he was unaware that he needed a business license, how can we assume he'll be aware that he needs to take care of the EPA issues? I mean,
No.
It's just a question.
Right. Well, he'll have to get a license. I know I'm kind of going backwards, but now that we've advised him, he has to get a business license, okay? But he can't get a business license because the activity he does is currently not allowed in that land use district where his home is located. That's what we're asking you to grandfather in. On the issue about if there is any type of environmental functions and everything, because that business is grandfathered in, the owner would be responsible for taking care of it should he, she, it, whatever decide to stop, or if some pollution is determined to advance off the property. My sense is, but there's no guarantee, I don't think that it has been, you know, for example, he does not have any fuel tanks there. What's a classic term? Shade tree mechanic type of stuff. So the environmental impact of it, I would speculate, is quite limited. But if there is anything, then he as the owner is responsible for that and having to address that. Let me back up. We're not aware of any environmental issues. That's not how this came to the city's attention. It came to the city's attention because of concern from a neighbor about this business operation being conducted there.
What other questions do you have? Let's find phrases out of the way right now, so.
I have no problem with it, as long as he doesn't pollute the soil. Look what happened with the laundromat what's the name of the street, 41 South, North.
Make it north.
They have made a royal mess out of that. We just don't want that to happen again.
While we're waiting to follow up on Mr. Mr. Hunt's concern, we'll investigate what options we have relative for that.
Okay.
That's good. I don't want him to not have his way of life there that he's had for so long, and a service that he's
Right.
rendered for a long time.
It would run along on two separate tracks. So if you do the motion, and of course he'll have to get his business license, but he'll be good to continue to proceed with that activity. Then we'll do some other follow-up relative to Mr. Hunt's concern if there's any environmental issues with it. And if there is, just like any other property owner, he will be advised, and then it takes its own track, because we're not involved in the enforcement of that. We as a city, excuse me.
word that, but I'm gonna make that motion that we do grandfather them in.
We have a motion to grandfather the business into the land use area at this point in time. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Dr. Alter?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Ms. Fine Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Please let the record show that the recommendation to grandfather this operation was approved unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Gilmore, anything else this evening?
Yes, Mayor and Council, kind of following up on the issue about the excavator. It is the administration's intention that we will not fill any vacant positions from now on that occur until we have a better handle about where we are economically, unless we feel that it is a essential position. And if that's the case, then we will bring that back to you for you to okay.
You do not need a motion for that, do you not?
If you all are comfortable with accepting, or in essence, no motion but concurring, then we will proceed with that. But we did want to advise you that that's our plan as it stands right now. Now that will be reviewed on a quarterly basis. You know, if we need to make any other type of changes or anything, we'll get back and let you know, but like we said earlier, we think it's imperative to start preparing for this.
Now, there's been a large amount of discussion as to what truly is going to happen after the after effects of this virus and the impact it's going to have on our revenue streams, such as hotel and motel, because the fairgrounds are closed for business right now. So that's having a tremendous impact on our hotel and motel revenues. So the administration has been in conversation about this is very critical for us to get ahead of this and understand that we need to evaluate this before we do anything else going into our budget planning. And I would recommend, given that Mr. Gilmore is our Chief Operating Officer and is in charge of running our business for the city, that we honor his request at this point in time.
I agree. Concur.
Roll, okay, concur.
Concur.
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Concur.
You have total concurrence, Mr. Gilmore. Thank you very much for bringing that forward to us.
Thank you.
We're very dependent on you to watch our revenues as you do on a regular basis.
If you see me leaving with a suitcase, you better watch out.
You can take us with us.
Department head and staff items, Ms. Clark, anything this evening for us?
Nothing tonight, sir.
That is I think the only department head or person we have outside of us. That council members, have I missed anything this evening as we change this up? Mr.
Oh.
Gilmore, yes.
Yes. Just to recap where we are relative to dealing with the virus for council, I mean the mayor, and maybe you all are fairly aware with that, but we have followed our understanding of the latest CDC guidelines relative to how to address with that. An example of that is social distancing that you see here. You know, the fact that the public will need to electronically come in with that to participate. We have fully closed the Worrell Center. We have fully closed the Perry Arts Center. We have closed customer service to the public coming in. However, they can still mail, they can use the jack. If they have to have some type of particular service, like establish new service or whatever, they can do that by appointment. People coming in for business licenses or property taxes also will need to set an appointment to come in to deal with that. All the departments have been advised that if there are any employees with their job functions that can operate from home, they have been advised that they can do that. We have very few employees in our organization that fit that mode. Obviously, firefighters can't work from home, and police officers. All the departments are following the guidelines that have been provided through CDC or their professional organization. And we will continue to keep you all abreast about whatever we're doing with this. We are anticipating that this is probably the arrangement that we have. Hopefully it would be, I believe, 8 weeks is what they're talking about. My sense is that it's going to be probably longer, than that, sometime into the summer. But we'll just have to see what the guidelines are that come out.
This morning, the vice president held up a 10-item piece of paper and said, "This is what we want you to follow." Can we get some of those?
Yes.
Distribute them, please.
Pardon?
And distribute them, please.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Material, yes, if we can.
Yeah, they're available on the CDC's website.
Right.
You can go and click on that. They've got a update. It's got all the and the recommendations, the thing about putting out a recommendation that's a hard copy, it's changing daily. It went from meeting groups of 100 to 50, and now they're saying that you shouldn't meet in a group larger than 10. So every day that's changing as they become better and better aware. I would recommend, if people really have questions, is go to the CDC and download that or print it and those type of things, because they have the most current information, and whatever we might get could be outdated tomorrow.
That's how we get it.
That's my only concern about it.
Right. And that's what we do when people contact us. We direct them to the Board of Health for the county or through the CDC.
One thing we can do is we can post that information available on our Facebook page and also our city website, giving them the links for them to go to look up that information, because I think that's a better way of getting the most current information to the public. And we will do that. We'll make sure that those links are available. Anything else, Mr. Gilmore?
No, sir.
Item 14 is general public items. Again, we are on Facebook Live. If you have comments or questions, if you will place those up on that Facebook Live, we will respond to you in the morning. Item 15 is mayor items. I can't encourage each and every one of you to follow the recommendations that are being put out by CDC. That is limiting your social gatherings, and when you are, make sure that you have social spacing between you and the other individuals there. I know that we've all been taught to wash our hands, but there's a great push that all day long, keeping your hands clean with sanitizers and washing your hands is extremely important. And I personally would like to say, please be patient with us. We're trying to live with CDC's recommendation. You can see how we're meeting tonight. We're going to continue to do that. We hope that it's not overly inconvenient for you for the actions that we have taken to protect not only our citizens but the employees of the city. And we would ask that your patience as we go through the next 8 weeks hope to get to the end of this situation. Is there anything else from the council members tonight? Council members, thank you very much for your patience and the different way we're having to conduct our meetings, but I thank you very much for your support and support of our community during the very trying times, and thank you for your service. Thank you to the staff. I know you guys are working extremely hard every day to comply and trying to get your work done on a regular basis, given the constraints that you're under. So I truly appreciate what you're doing. At this time, if there's no other business to come before us, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second.
Second.
All right.
Little late on that.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We stand adjourned.